Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Let me switch here real quick. There we go. All right, well, welcome to today's webinar. We'll be talking about how to enter crew cards, specifically the union crew cards in Showbiz Timecards. Now, I'll do a little bit of a review for those of you who have missed previous webinars, but I'm going to give you a couple little tips that'll help you out. So first of all, my name is Roger. I'm one of the developers of the program, so you're in great hands. Let me show you a few things about our website. Showbiz Timecards is part of the Media Services family. And feel free to come up here and take a look at mediaservices.com. We offer payroll. We're a payroll record of a lot of different individuals. We offer accounting, residuals. I will go into our tools just a moment. ACA, we can help you out with that. Incentives. The store is also kind of tied to the tools. And there's an answer section. By the way, the answer section, if you're not sure where to go for a question, come right to this answer section. Go right to this bottom part, type in what you want, and you'll get our website's indexed, and it'll find it instantly for you. So let me go back to the tools section. There's payroll tools. You can take a look at some of these other things like TIM and a couple other things as well. Showbiz Timecards, of course, is what you want. If you want to specifically, you don't have to do it now, but you're welcome to download any one of our softwares. In fact, today, after we're done here, you can go ahead and download it. There's a trial of the program. Go ahead and download it, play with the program. Of course, if you're being supplied the program, that's okay. But if you want to do this at home, we do have a 10-day trial. Here's the cool thing about our trials. Our trials are fully working. The data is even saved. You will not lose any data that you do. So it can always be transferred, or if you buy the software, it'll just unlock you and you'll be fine. Okay. Two things that are also important is software support. At any time that you want to, you can go ahead and check right in here. There's a link in the program. I'll show you how that links in here, by the way, too. But you can go here, you can call, you can literally call right now and talk to various individuals. They can help you. There's an East Coast person and a West Coast person. There's even after-hours emergency support if you should need it. Also, what's really cool about our website, too, is if you notice this little guy that popped up, make sure to subscribe, because you'll not only be able to find out about future webinars, but you're also going to find out about things that we offer sometimes from, through our particular website. So feel free to sign up, because you're going to be able to find out about a lot of different things that we offer. So when you come in here, there's this little section called tutorials as well. And that's also kind of a nice little helper that will, if you have a question, especially if it's late at night and maybe you just want to learn yourself, especially since these are YouTube videos, you can, rewind a little bit, go watch a little section over and over again. And really what this is actually many different webinars kind of put together, including, by the way, there is a webinar, there's previous webinars right in here. But yeah, you can literally go step by step how to learn the program, going kind of more from a non-union to more complex things like union, and even going into hot costs, which we do every couple of months as well. Importing and exporting time cards, all kinds of fun little things. So you can always watch those tutorials. Most of the tutorials you can see are not very long. They're anywhere between about 3 to 5 minutes. There's an occasional one that's a little bit longer like this one, but at least it'll get you through the various aspects of the program. But nevertheless, if you have a question, it's during our business hours, no problem. Feel free to call us. Just as you are watching my screen right now, the software support staff actually has the ability to connect to your computer and help you. And many times I actually like to encourage that with you, because we can watch together what's going on and what might be happening. Is it a bug? No, maybe it's just something we need to teach you. And that's a good thing, because we can actually help you, and you can watch on the screen what we do and help you out with whatever your needs are, right? And that way you've learned some new task and you're good, and you're off running off and doing whatever you need to do to finish off your software and finish off your time cards. All right, so yeah, feel free to watch those. Again, there's another spot too where you can go in, and if you look under the tools, this is the webinars and events, of course. And of course, any new webinars that are coming up, if you'll take a look at these, budgeting, we have one coming up, I'm sure. There's time cards, there's TIM. TIM's our digital onboarding system. You can watch the webinars from them, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, if there's a live event when we do have them, they'll be down at the bottom here. But most of the stuff we do now is all webinar based because it allows some people from technically all over the world to connect in. All right, so enough ado about that. So let's talk about what we're here for, which is the Showbiz time card program. Of course, if you've downloaded the program and you're running the program, it'll be on a trial. Just use the trial. It'll work for 10 days. Otherwise, this will be the first screen you see after that. By the way, there's always this little information screen. Always take a look in here. There's always something new that we add here, letting you know, for example, how Tim, by the way, digital onboarding imports into the desktop program. All those digital starts will go right into the CrewCards program. So just make sure you have one of the more recent versions like 14M or higher, and then we can help you with that as well. All right, so of course, as we mentioned last time, there's a couple of different options in here, and non-union, union. There's also wider. This is wider episode. It's basically union. But I'm going to click in just the non-union really quickly just so you can see it, and then we'll switch over to union. So again, the program, the way it's laid out, and by the way, if you ever want to make it a little bit larger, it's just right here on the top under View, Zoom Out or Zoom In. See how that's smaller? You want to go in to zoom in. You can also use the shortcut key if you want to, which is F3, but that is only for the PC version. By the way, it does work on both PC and Mac, so that's fine. Choose whatever operating system you want. It'll work fine on either one of them. Sometimes there's some limitations. Always look at our website or feel free to call our software support staff to help you. Like sometimes older operating systems, you need to get the newer version of the program to do that. But occasionally, if somebody has an older operating system, we still have older versions that are still available if you need it. All right. So basically, the way the program is laid out, and now I'm, of course, in the union section now, is that the information on the top here is all about the person. Okay. Then we have notes. There's notes that go on the time card. There's notes to self. The notes on the time card specifically are seen on the actual time card that you can print out. Notes to self, only you will see them. So there's something about, particularly you do that. There's other note sections we have off to the side here. If you want to scroll, you can see them. For example, if you're using from Tim, this is what the notes from online means. It will pull information that comes from Tim that you can actually be able to use. And again, watch the Tim webinar. I have a really good Tim webinar that shows how Tim imports and works with the program. All right. So next, this section here is ACA. If you have any, if you need the ACA section, feel free to fill it out. The cool thing about the program, by the way, is there are several sections of the program that may not be applicable to you. You may not need them. They're not required. Most of the time, you could just skip right past them. There is something that's really cool in the fact that if there is a needed field and you forgot to fill out the field, we have a warning that pops up. And it'll say, don't forget to do this, because it's a critical piece of information that we need to be able to create a time card and give you an hours to gross. Because that's what Showbiz Time Cards is. It's a really, really good hours to gross system to help you calculate your time cards. So, all right, so here is the job information. Again, we'll go over this again. I'm going to go over more detail. I just want you to see the sections. This is basically when we went over in last month, kind of introductory section. Here's the job information. Here's where you enter hours, or if they're a flat daily, weekly contract, we can do that too. Hours, how they break out, if you're using an overtime section. Down below that is the MPV section, which we'll go into today. Allowances as well, and there's some other things here. See all kinds of allowances, a couple things. I'll go over these as well. Don't worry about that. The very, very bottom is something called information to track. You don't have to enter anything here unless you want to use it for tracking. In fact, that's what we call it optional information. It is not necessary for the program to work, but you may be able to use it. I'll show you. There's lists that you, if you're perhaps maybe not the POC or the APOC, maybe usually in most production offices, a POC or an APOC is probably responsible for an address list. But maybe you're working on a smaller show and you're responsible in the accounting office to do that. We can help you there and you can use that. There's also this thing for hot costing. Watch the hot costing webinars. It'll explain how that functionality works. Otherwise, all the information that you put in, when you're done, you hit Magic Pay and it updates and gives you an hours to gross total. Okay. By the way, too, as you have questions along the way, which I'm sure you will, there is a section of your GoToWebinar that you can actually go in and ask a question. So feel free at any time to type in those questions, and what I'll do is I'll take breaks and I'll go over those questions for you. And if there's any questions that are unanswered afterwards, don't worry about it. There'll be information. You can contact your software support, and you may feel more comfortable even having one of our support staff connect in with you and help you out, and that's fine. No problem with that. We'll be happy to do that for you. All right. So let's go a little more detail here now. So, for example, let me go ahead and I'm going to go in and I'm going to make a new time card. You can also duplicate info only. In fact, since I've already kind of done new time cards is a blank time card. I'm going to switch over to duplicate info only, which is what most of you will do, because you already have a particular time card. This is a new function, which if you have locked time cards, you can say yes or no. I want to say no. All right, so now what it's done is it's copied over all this information. And by the way, the information up top, again, it's very simple and straightforward. You can capitalize or not capitalize. It's entirely up to you. Tab forward. Social Security, again, you can enter the last 4 digits if you want to. You can enter the full if you want to. Now, I know a lot of studios I've been hearing are saying don't enter the full one. That's fine. Whatever your needs are, you do. But here's the cool thing, is the program's complying with the law that came out in 2008, which is if you are printing a time card or it's considered insecure, in other words, if you're printing something and handing it out, you shouldn't show the full Social Security number. So what you do, and this is what we have in the report, in the time card, is time card actually is automatically only showing the last 4. So that's okay. It'll automatically only show the last 4, and you're set anyways. That is the default setting, by the way, too. So you don't have to, change anything from that. But again, if you're entering a Social Security number, then I would suggest you only enter the last 4 numbers and not do, I see sometimes people would do the XXXXXX, which you can do for this first to mask it out, but it kind of not necessary, because if you do that, when you go to the time card to print it anyways, it's not going to show. So, I mean, you can do it if you want to. There's this option to show the full social if you want to show those X's. But at this point, with all the payroll companies, they only really need, all we really need, media services, etc., all we need is their name and their Social Security number to match up against our records. So that's what I would suggest you do, because it's a lot easier to deal with. Entering last 4 digits is fine. Okay, so again, as you skip through, you'll see, and again, it's a little bit of review from last time, you type in whatever you want. If it's already there from a previous time card that you've made, it's a buildable menu. In other words, every time you enter a new one, it's added to your database. And then once it's added to your database, then of course you're good, and you can go ahead and pick that the next time. But again, if you wanted to type in something like I wanted to go to grip, instead of going, I didn't use my mouse there, I just typed in GR, right? And of course we had 2 different types here. We have grips or grip. Again, it doesn't matter whatever you like the best, whatever you've entered, and you move forward by hitting tab or enter, either one. And then you can change to anything like, I wanted mixer. Now, can you use the mouse? Sure. Of course, that wouldn't be a grips mixer, but okay, maybe, there we go. You get the idea. You move forward, you pick in there, you pick the guild that they're at, or you can pick non-union as well. If they have a loan-out company, you put the loan-out company name, Fed ID, put the Fed ID name in. Picture project, again, if you've already entered it, you can use the drop-down. City-state also has a drop-down. What's nice about it, though, is, and I'll show you this, is if you go ahead and start typing it, it will narrow down your search, and there we go, I wanted Los Angeles. Again, production company, enter it the first time. If it doesn't exist, you can type it in. Name of the payroll company, if you want to be very specific, we actually have payroll companies in there too. And you just go ahead and, again, going across the top. The tags, as I explained last month, essentially are a way of tagging a time card. Think of it as a way of folding over a corner or dotting the corner of a time card. I used to do that many years ago when I was doing payroll. That's a great way of being able to find things later on. I'll show you that in a moment. Status, you can use the status. There's multiple statuses here. Most people tend to, they can even make your own. You can go and edit and call, I want to make a straggler, or late, either one you want to call it. And then you can actually go in there, and once you've made it, click away from it, and now you can flag that as late. I'll show you that kind of a handy little thing in a minute. All right, week ending, you can go and choose your week ending. Let's see, for our week ending here, we would be 10/12. So you just click into it. If you click into it again, 10/12. And again, you don't have to enter the year. The program will automatically do it for you. Only force the year. Say, for example, you're at the end of the year and you happen to be working into, say, 2020, then that's when you're going to go ahead and do something like that. ACA is real simple. Choose whatever you want, or if you're not using it, leave it alone. Okay, now below that is really some important information about the payee. Are they hourly? Are they daily? Are they weekly? What are they? I'm going to switch this up, and I'm going to say this is a weekly person. I'm going to take some information out of here. You can leave stuff that's relevant, like your chart of accounts, maybe your OC codes and stuff like that. You can leave them all intact. You don't have to change those. You don't necessarily have to have an overtime schedule, but yeah, if you've already got one in there, it'll give you it'll say that, hey, be careful of that one. But yeah, it's fine because it's a weekly contract. So for a weekly contract, you're going to go simply and just go right in here and just say 5,000. All right. Now this is a simple flat. Now mind you, even with flats, when they're in guilds, they often have some kind of deal. So you can click this little button that says worked, no problem, done. If they're a 6th or 7th day, it depends on their contract. Are they prorated? If they're prorated, it's just standardly built into the program. You click another day, and it's going to prorate. In other words, normally their prorated rate is $1,000 a day, right? Because it's normally a 5-day week. So now it's going to prorate and give me an extra amount, right? An extra day. And watch, I'll show you. I'll take that out again real quick. See now, if I do that again, it's prorated. It's considered 0.2 or 1/5 of their rate. Now, there's a difference though. If you say, well, no, they only get paid 5,000 for all days worked, or maybe 6 days worked, you have a couple options here. You can say, well, for a 6-day contract, it's supposed to be still 5,000. And now you'll see that the multiplier will change, okay? Because it's changing on purpose, because that's what you wanted. If they work 7 days and they don't get anything extra, that's fine. It'll change the prorating will change a little bit again, so make sure that they get paid correctly. Other things to take on, there's also some other things in here too, so that's fine. But yeah, sorry, that's why 6th and 7th day, you change that there. So it'll go back to it. There we go, because it was prorating based on 6. In other words, the 7th was an extra day, okay? So there's that. However, if you do want to pay them 6th and 7th days, you don't want to use this functionality right here, and you do want to, you can automatically turn it on if you want to, or you can flag it. It's entirely up to you. And now, 6th day for a flat is time and a half of their prorated rate. 7th is double their prorated rate. So if you go ahead and click that, no problem. Now it's going to give you 3 pay lines, one with their prorated, one with their time and a half of their prorated rate, and then double time of their prorated rate. Now, of course, there are variations of this. No problem. You can change this up. You can sit there and literally say, well, no, they're supposed to be paid time and a half for any 6th or 7th day. You just tell the program to change it. And in fact, there's even some other options too, where you could sit there and say, well, for example, maybe they didn't work this day, but maybe this is a carryover from a previous week. Very handy. You can say, well, this was a 7th day from a previous week, flag it there, and then, of course, then they work 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, they don't have it. So you turn off the auto 6th and 7th day, and then now you're still going to get that breakout the way you wanted it. Okay, so there you go. Now it's breaking out. So again, the nice thing about this is you can change it the way you want it. Of course, no overtime is needed. In fact, if you can see, it's really not even doing anything here for you anyway, so that's fine. So that's the flats. Flats are really simple. Daily is almost the same thing. The only difference is you're going to do daily, you're going to do a daily rate instead, and it calculates daily instead of prorating that rate. So again, that's mostly for DGA. They're probably one of the few that actually does have a daily option. Most contracts are weekly though, but again, go according to whatever the guild you're dealing with is. Different guilds have different deals, right? So act accordingly. Now I'm going to switch this up, and I'm going to go, actually, by the way, let me go back, and I want to show you something that's really nice. Sometimes people on the weekly and daily contracts would like to see how much the pension hours are for the person. So what you can do is to say, you use this little function called guarantee hours a day. If you put that in there every day they work, it'll multiply that amount of hours you have. Now it's going to give you 40. Watch this. It's going to give you 40 pension hours, see? So I occasionally have people that ask, well, how do I put pension hours in the pay lines? That's how you do it. And if it's something unusual, like sometimes they have unusual, like there's some of these other odd, like 48 and 52, 54. There's a lot of different guilds that have a lot of different maybe amounts. That's fine. You put in whatever the guaranteed hours per day, even though technically they're flat. Whatever their prorated rate is, look at it weekly based on 5 days and divide it by 5 and just put that amount in. And then you're going to break it down and they're going to give the amount of pension hours properly. Otherwise, if it's hourly, they're going to assume that automatically. So this is just a way for anybody who's a flat contract to show how many technical pension hours you have. Okay, so that's that. Let's switch over to an hourly really quickly. And again, it doesn't hurt you, but I would take that out because you don't want that. You only want to enter the information about the person that's correct. So let's just say they're 45, 45. And let me talk to you a little bit too about the job splitter. Okay, let me clear that out too, by the way. All right, so the job splitter, literally what this does is if you're breaking the cost by job, by episode or any other means, you're going to use what we call the splitter here. Now, the splitter can be used for whatever you want it to be. So, and again, you can use this for dailies, but this is usually mostly used for hourly, dailies and weeklies, but this is mostly for hourly. So what you do is you come down here and you fill in what you want in the splitter, and it can be anything you want. I'm just doing episodes, so that's fine. If you copy down, what it's going to do is it's going to copy down the line before it, with the exception it's not going to change the splitter, it's not going to change the episode. We kind of figure you're going to pre-populate that, so watch. This is now 321, this is now 321, and now I click the job C, and now it copies it down. Okay, so again, it won't override those other two because we figured that's what you want to do. Okay, so now I have 3 episodes that I want to split by, so no problem. Let's just do what we normally do with an hourly person, okay? And in that hourly person, what we want to do is we want to go in and we want to enter hours, and you enter them in military time. So 8, 14, 15, 21, you got a perfect 12-hour day. You can copy and paste days as well. In fact, there's even a function here where you can copy the total hours and take it to another time card. I'll show you after we duplicate time cards how that's really handy. So, all right, so we got all that in there. Now, you need to make sure that, there's a remnant over here. Normally that wouldn't show up, but what you need to do is you make sure you pick the appropriate overtime schedule. Now, you can pick from this little drop down, but it can be a little cumbersome to try to find the right one. So what I would suggest you do is go to OT schedules. And you can come in here and you can use our find and get feature, which is really kind of handy. So if you come in here and say find, I want to find, maybe like grip, and you get, there's all the grip guilds, right? And there's their overtime schedules. So you can specifically go in and pick which overtime schedule you want. We have 8.4W, which is mostly for television. We have 8.6, which is mostly for distant location. And there's even both elapsed and worked, which I will explain in just a moment. So here, I'm going to say it's a television show. I'm going to do 8.6 work, which is what most of you on TV shows are doing. So you pick that. It's breaking it out properly. There's no meal penalties or anything like that. That's fine. I'll hit Magic Pay. And there we go. Done. Okay. Although I did miss something. I put daily rate. So that's okay. What I do is I can either move it over and copy it, or what I can do is now that I've done that, maybe I'll back it out and then just go in and hit that little button again and copy it down. You can also copy and paste by highlighting and copying and pasting as well too. That's also a handy thing. So again, put that in properly. Now we have it in there. Now we should be able to get a rate and get it breaking out. There we go. Perfect. And it's broken out based upon how you told it to do. Now again, pick the union. If we don't have one in there for you, here's a little tip. You can go to the OT schedules, and maybe we put all the major guild rules in here. We do not put side letter agreements because the guilds don't like that. That's a problem. Because the guilds make a concession to a show, they don't like that. But it doesn't mean you can't enter it in the program. What you could do is you could find one that you like and duplicate it, or you can make your own. I would suggest you do the former first. Scroll up and down really quickly and see if you can see one that you like. say for example, let's go ahead and we're going to pick one of these 8.6 or 8.4Es, right? We'll find this one. We'll click into it. You go up to the very top and you say duplicate the OT schedule. It drops all the way to the bottom, and now you can just type in whatever. You can type the name of your show, right? Or just so again, it's specifically it's for you to be able to use. So put in the local guild, maybe the local agreement, right? And that way you have what you need. And then again, it's handy and it's right in front of you. You can see it. So and then you apply it, and now there's a custom one I just made with a custom description in it. Now the trick is though, just make sure that you look at the 6th and 7th day contract because it might be varied, and it does. All you need to do is go back to the OT schedule and say, you know what, it's sitting here at the bottom. Let's go back to that one. Or again, you can do this little thing here by finding the name of it, and there it is. So you can say, well, no, actually, they're supposed to be double time. So you can move that over and drop that out. And you can say that, yes, they start at double time, and then they go to 3x. Fair enough. The alternate you can leave alone, but that can also be used for other type of situations. In fact, you can see this is an 8.4E because maybe you're there in the studio, and then maybe you go to a distant. So there's your distant option if you need that distant option. So now I just changed that. I just reapply it. And ta-da, there we go. It's exactly what I wanted it to be. So use that to your advantage with your own custom overtime schedule. It's great for especially union. Maybe it's a side letter agreement. Maybe it's a different kind of agreement. All right. So as I talked about elapsed, that's also something unique to union. So when you're applying this, you want to make sure that if you're on an elapsed contract as compared to a work contract, you apply it. The difference is this, and I know a lot of people get a little confused. What does it really mean? Okay. Remember, when somebody goes to work for a 12-hour day, as they've done here, technically with 1 hour lunch, they have been there for 13 elapsed hours. Okay? You're deducting the lunch, but you're deducting the lunch on the elapsed too. This is where people get confused. They think, oh, am I not deducting lunch? Yes, you are. You're deducting the lunch, but you're not allowed to deduct the lunch from the gold if earned. If they earn the gold, in other words, they've been there for that amount of time, 13 elapsed hours, which they have, 1 hour of it, right? So then, yes, they do get paid the gold. In other words, they earn the gold, they get to keep it. So you can't deduct it from the gold, but you can deduct it from the pay factor down, which is the 1.5x. So see what happens. Watch this, and I'll do a little change so you can see this. This is where people get confused a bit. But once you understand the concept, you can't deduct it from the gold. See what happens? It's 8 and 4. It's still the same 12-hour day. The lunch is still deducted, right? Same thing happens with E. You're still deducting the lunch. You're just not deducting it from the gold when they earn it, and they did because they've been there for 13 elapsed hours. That's what this is. It's basically 13 elapsed hours. Okay? So, again, do you have to remember all the details? No. Just make sure you choose the overtime schedule, and you'll be fine. Okay? But again, elapsed contracts are mostly features, but they're often movie of the weeks as well for television. And there's a lot of cable agreements that are also on elapsed contracts as well, because they're generally considered shorter form. They may be like maybe an 8 or a 10-hour episode, 8 to 10 episodes, and that's usually considered shorter form than, say, a 20 to a 24 episode television show that you're seeing, throughout the season. So, yeah, always go with whatever the guild tells you, whatever your guild agreement says, and just follow that. You'll be fine. Again, you can make a custom one like we talked about. Now, what does union also have that the non-union doesn't have? For example, OC code. You don't have to put it in there, but, it's to your advantage if for some reason and I know a lot of people have done this, and I'll explain to people who haven't yet. When you're dealing with OC codes and the wrong OC code is paid, remember that's their pension, health, and welfare. If the wrong OC code is paid, then you have to go back and do retros. Who do you think ends up being responsible for that? You do, as well as the payroll company. Okay, and you also get the headache that it was wrong. So if you have the right OC code, put it in there because it'll help you down the road, making sure you get the right pension, health, and welfare for the individual that you're paying. Okay. So, and again, you're going to see throughout the program little subtle things like that that are specifically designed more for union. Another of those is the MPV section is more complex. We talked about the OT being more complex, right? We already did that one. The MPVs are a little more complex. So let's go ahead and throw in a little bit of a adjustment here. Let's do 14.1 to 15.1. Okay, and we still have the 12-hour day because but we just adjusted that. But see, now there's a meal penalty. Now, do you want to pay the meal penalty, or was grace called? Was there an NDB involved? Let's go over those. So grace is real simple. If by chance they call a 12-minute grace, pop it in there and see how it drops out. The program literally what it does is it says, okay, I see this. You don't have to do anything unless you have, if you have auto pay on, it'll pay. It will not automatically pay this for you. Think of the meal penalty section as its own little calculator, okay? So what happens here is I need to choose the rule. If you're ever unsure what the rule is, go to this MPV section. If by chance it looks a little goofy because of something happened, maybe somebody changed it before you, you can reset to the default meal penalty rates, and here they are. This is, and by the way, just so you know, if you ever want to know them, here's the default IATSE for stage and for location and basic crafts. So make your adjustment. People in New York will want to make some adjustment to their meal penalties because it does do New York prevailing rate meal penalties. I have a really good webinar, a really good tutorial about that online if you want to watch that. But yes, it does it really, really well. So yes, prevailing rate meal penalties, for people who aren't familiar with that, is television, they get 3, and then after the third one, what happens is it becomes their prevailing rate. In other words, whatever their rate is at the time of day. If they're in straight time, it's on straight. It's usually not, though. It's usually on time and a half or often on double time. So they get double their rate every half hour that the meal penalty incurs. So it's a big thing. The program will do. I won't go over it here, but watch the webinar, or you can call us and we can help you with that as well. But it does it beautifully. Okay, but nonetheless, this is what it is. It's cumulative, so make sure, it's 750 plus 10 plus 1250 repeating. So just make sure that, again, always go by what your agreement is, but this should be the standard agreements meal penalties. Okay, so let's go back out. All right, so now that I've got that in, I just want to make sure that I do want to pay it, so I'll just click on it and pay it. There it is, $850, Magic Pay again. Here's the cool thing about Magic Pay. If you ever get something, no big deal. It'll pop in new things you changed. For example, now we have double time applicable now, right? Because we changed the overtime schedule. And now, of course, now we have those meal penalties. Now, say, for example, you want to call a grace. Oh, shoot, I forgot. They did call grace. I would come in here and clear the MPVs. Why? Because watch what happens. If I apply it, this still saves. There's a really good reason why we do this, too, by the way. We want to hold on to this because you might do an override, and it would drive you nuts if it wiped out every single time. So in this case, you do want to clear it all, start over again, go ahead and click in here, and you're fine. Even if you say pay MPVs, it's not going to pay it. You bring Magic Pay, it will clear it out. Done. Okay. Say, for example, you wanted to do an NDB instead. No problem. All you need to do is come in here, and usually NDBs are within 2 hours of call, and we'll say that, it was within 2 hours of call, and so you can say, technically shooting started at 10 a.m. So you're allowed to take it. Essentially what's happening with an NDB is because a hot meal was supplied, you're allowed to delay the calculation of meal penalties by 2 hours. So what you say is 10 a.m. is the end of the NDB, and it drops out because it's within 2 hours, a 2-hour delay going in, all right? So, there you go. That's all you need to do is just pop in the time, and it'll knock that out. We also have other things for New York people like last man in. This is the last man in the chow line. We have that in there for you if you need that. Otherwise, use the MPVs to calculate the way you want it to. In fact, I'll even go ahead and let's make another adjustment here, and let's take this out to a much longer day. By the way, see how I'm doing 25? Calculate the day. A lot of people have been doing payroll for a long time. This is the way you want to do it. Why? Because you don't want to do one. In fact, if you do 1 a.m., it'll mess up. It'll give you a negative. It'll error out when you do it. But it's much easier. This is the way we've been doing for payroll forever. You take 25 from 8, which is 17 hours minus lunch, 1 hour. There you go, done. That's the way payroll's been done for a long time. It's easier. It's easier, especially when you're doing military time, to follow that rule. Continue the day on, and you'll be fine. Okay, so now I've got that in there. It's obviously I have a bunch of MPVs now. So now I overrode this one, but I do want to pay this. I have to because we didn't. Yeah, we can't go beyond. It's way too far beyond grace. So I click on Pay Meals. You can do the auto pay, but I wouldn't do that necessarily if you're doing a lot of overwriting. So there we go. We've got the IATSE, Magic Pay, and we're up to date. All right. Allowances, and then I'll go into some questions for you. Allowances, again, we have a bunch of different things in here. Box, car, you can do whatever you want. There's a fillable allowance here to fill in like a cell phone or whatever. Also note there's things in here for like meal money, production fee like DGA, meal money for DGA. And by the way, if you click on the end there, DGA, there's some rules around it. Teamster and there's one specific rule that says basically Teamsters have to have been 12 hours or more to get it. There's a regular Teamster rule, and then there's the DGA rule. And all those rules are built in, by the way. Just make sure you choose it. It'll pop up a warning if you forget it. There's a meal money advance in here. You could put the account in. So, for example, maybe your ADs are going to a distant location. You want to give that meal money in advance. You can do that now. It's a more recent feature of the program. There's per diems. There's holiday vacations. I do go into that a lot in the beginning. So go back and watch that if you're interested in that. But I'll just do one for you real quick. We don't have, we only have the hour, unfortunately. So let's just go ahead. I'm just going to do 8, just so you can see it. Again, the nice thing about this is, by the way, this is an override in your chart of accounts, your COA, your account structure, whatever you want to call it. It's going to override the one up top. If you don't fill anything out for the COA, it will not. It'll use the default one up on top. So if you want to change it, do that. Okay. So in other words, if you want to send certain things like an amort, that's fine. So do that. Just make sure this is a daily function, right? Whatever they work per day, and every day they work, they're going to get $10. If you want to cap them out and say, no, they're not supposed to get 50, they're supposed to get a maximum of 40, click on that and then change that to 40. And now when you've got that done, you hit Magic Pay and you're done. Okay. Some other things that are applicable to there's this holiday vacation as well. Let me go over that really quickly just so you see what that is. Again, you can put whatever you want in here. Otherwise, it will use the default. You just need to tell the percentage of the pay that they're being paid. So I can say, I'll say it's, say 10%. Okay. OT pay is only if they have some kind of a guarantee, and if they have a guarantee per day, is that guarantee, like, for example, this is an 8-hour, this is the easy way to think about it. This person is 8 hours a day, right? If their guarantee is a 12-hour day, then yes, time and a half is part of that factor, right? So yes, you would say that time and a half is part of that, and you would click in there and say that. But that's only if the guarantee is a 12-hour day. Well, we're saying it's 8. So fair enough, we don't want to do that. And then you can just leave it alone. You can also turn it off and do not pay it, just like I've described in the past. It just suppresses it for now, but turn it on when you want to pay them. But yeah, it's just as simple as just adding it in there. It basically looks at the straight time, 10% of that, breaks it out. There you go. That's why you can see it's 181. There we go. Because it's literally, it's 10% of the straight time because that's what you asked it to do. Okay. Other things, we have a box and card tracker. I have a really good tutorial about this. Watch that. But basically, it's just a matter of tracking your information. Off production, we have night premiums in the program, and they work beautifully. We have, in fact, this is a newer version. If people have perhaps been using older versions, we do have IATSE, we have the videotape, and we now have 600, 700, 705. So yeah, we have the projectionists, the costumers, and editorial. Okay, they have a slightly different rule. If you ever want to see what those rules are, by the way, you can just click on this little button down below, and it literally will show you not only how it's breaking out. Give it a second. There we go. And it shows you how it's breaking out. If there's anything applicable, make sure it also notice, there's no premium in particular on double time. So if it doesn't calculate something, it means because our hours are a little bit different. Or it's also possible too that there's some other things that it turns on and off as well, night premium calculations. So just make sure that you choose the appropriate rules, and it'll pay properly. Let's see what else is here. I can show you real quick before I go to the questions. We do have fringes in here, by the way, if you wanted to use that. This is the fringe. You can put in whatever the fringe is for the, you can say, let's say it's 25%, 0.25. There we go, puts that in there. And again, it's not affecting the gross total, but it is giving you an estimate. Where that really becomes handy is when you're trying to figure out hot costs. Because when you get your payroll back from the payroll company, like ourselves, you're going to be getting the gross total plus the fringes. So remember, that's something additional that has to be paid by not only the employer, but the employee as well. So that's what your gross to net totals are. All right, so I think if there's anything else particular. There's a lot of little subtle things that we have in the program for union people. I think I've gone over most of them. Of course, if there's any questions, let me see if there's any right now. There's a couple other things I want to go into. We have a few minutes. All right, so first question was, you don't need multiple starts for multiple positions to be able to come with the pay. Okay, so essentially is for a guild, usually no. For the guild, if you are within the same department, that's what the OC code is for. So as a general rule, no, you don't need multiple starts. Where you do need multiple starts is if that person is now going to a different department, then yes, they're changing their departments and now they need a new start form. Almost all payroll companies will need that, of course, but here's the trick. Always consult your payroll person, your paymaster, your payroll coordinator. They can help you to make sure that you get the right information with this. Because there are some little hazy rules on some of this. But as a general rule, on non-union, you don't have to worry. Backwards. With union people, as a general rule, yes. If they are a completely different position with a different pay, you should be giving a different start information for that. But again, go to your payroll company because they might be able to help you out, and it just depends. But for guilds, it is quite simple. It's usually if you're within the same guild, that's what the OC code is for. So if somebody re-rates, that's what re-rating is for. In fact, I can even show you. Here's a good example of this. Maybe this person on this day, in fact, if you still want to use, and there's a cool thing about this. Say, for example, they were still episode 320, but they re-rated. Put that in there. But now you can actually change this to re-rate, okay? And then you can say, look, they went from a regular grip to a best boy. You don't necessarily have to change this up here, but that's fine. You can put that in your notes that they re-rated to, a higher rate. So here I come in here and I'll say it's 54, and now because I want to tell the program what day, you can drag and drop, by the way, kind of a nice little thing. If you've seen me do this a couple of times today, you just drag it right over the top and drop it. So we'll say it's this last day they re-rated. Again, you're going to want to change that OC code. So we'll say, it's 7370. Whatever the OC code is appropriate for that re-rate. Now you have the re-rate, you have the re-rated amount. We will say, no, we're not going to change the box. But now that those hours they worked will now be broken out separately for you. And it'll even say, that's what we call it. If you notice, we actually have this thing called splitter because it tells you what they did that day. Well, no, it's not necessarily the episode. I wanted to be able to go in there and say that it was specifically, in fact, I'll even split it 3 times so you can see this. I'll do the 320 here, and we'll split it 3 times just so you can see that what's happening is the 320 is now being split on this re-rate day to a completely different day. See that? So that's a good thing to learn if you are doing a re-rate person. And again, as a general rule for most union contracts, you don't need to worry about that because you don't have to submit a separate one because that's part of the agreement that you're in. But again, always consult your paymaster, your payroll coordinator, and they can help you out with that. Make sure you get the right answer. Okay. Next one is, somebody had to leave the webinar early. No problem. For those of you who would like to review this, it's being recorded right now. And just go ahead and send, you can check, and it'll be posted where I showed you earlier. I'll go back and show you it again. But yeah, it'll be posted to that website. You can watch it again, watch it as many times as you like, no problem. And again, watch our other webinars as well. In fact, there's a lot of introductory stuff that I went over last month. You can watch that one instead to be able to pick up from what we learned today. Okay, so no problem on that one. Let's see. What else do we have here? All right. Submitting with electronic signatures. That would be a question. You're asking, can you submit these to electronically? Yes, we can, but do talk to your coordinator about it. We do want the start information with signatures and everything like that, but of course, if you're using TIM, which is part of what you can do, it's free with media services clients, you can use that and it's okay. Yes, you can often use the e-signatures that are built in the program. Contact your payroll coordinator here at Media Services, and we can help you out with that. You can, even if you want to, print these up and sign them if you want to do that too. That's a possibility. But as a general rule, there's a spot on the very bottom of a time card. You can actually deal with the coordinators. On this one is if you, and I'll show you here. Let me get the questions here. Multiple start. Okay, good. We got all the questions. Good. All right. So for the start, again, contact your coordinator. But a lot of people, what they'll do is when you go to the time card, is you can do something like this: employee signature on file. And again, a lot of payroll companies will do this too, by the way. So just be aware of this. And then you can also say, who's signing for them. Here, let's pick a different time card. Let's pick a newer one. By the way, when you're printing time cards, I did go over this last time, a lot of the older ones are more non-union. The newer ones are like 9 forward or more union. So pick one of those because there's a nice little thing that changes about it. So for example, you say on file, and you can say, Bob, is the lead accountant, and we'll say that Mary is the UPM. Okay. So what you can do there is, instead of actually putting their signature, you can put in there when they signed off on the time card. So whatever, you can say 10, 8, let's say today, that they signed off at 19, no problem. Okay. You can simply do that, or whatever way method you like to do. But yeah, most of the time this is considered acceptable. Again, there is something, talk to your coordinators about this in Media Services. And of course, I know you don't always have a choice if you're with another payroll company, talk to them. But I know a lot of people are accepting things based upon the initial, as long as you have the initial signature, there's a way to be able to do stuff like that. So contact them and they can help you with that. Okay, but yeah, then you do this, then when you print this, or you send it to us electronically, which is what I would suggest you as a customer do. Send this file to us electronically, we'll import it, we'll have all that information. So yes, you can do that. All right, so there's that. Couple of things too, we've got a few minutes here. There's no questions. Nope, okay, good. All right, feel free to pop those questions. We have about 10 minutes left, which is good. No, feel free to take advantage of that. So there's a few things that would be nice for you to know too about the program that are more advanced things that are kind of helpful. So first of all, we do have lots of reports. Your producer may come to you and say, I need a report for X. Just make sure that you're go to the worksheet first before you do this. Although technically when you're in the reports, a lot of these reports you can do this too. Say for example, you wanted, a box and car report. Okay, this box and car report is currently for every single time card that you've entered in the system. So perhaps what you may want to do is you may want to find a week ending, which here is a little bit harder because it's off to the side over here, but you can. So or you can do it in the worksheet list, whatever. You hit find. What is the week ending you want to find? Because you want to report, say, 1 week, right? We'll go to this old time card, this old week ending and grab it. All right, perfect. This is what I have, but there's nothing in the time card. So, that's not the right one. Let me get number 1, find. Let's go to this week ending, get. There we go. Now we have information. Now this information can be printed or sent to Excel. If you print it, oftentimes some of these are a little bit large, so you might need an 8.5 by 14 piece of paper to get it to fit properly. But what you can do instead is you can just say, look, file, And there's a little function in here called Save Send Records as Excel. It'll save in Excel format. You can give it a name, put it on the desktop, and then go and manipulate that. Change things. Delete columns that you don't need. For example, maybe you don't want the week ending in there, right? Or maybe you want the week ending to be moved all the way over to the front. It's now in Excel. You can do anything you want with that file now. So go ahead and do that. It's a really nice little function. And there's all kinds of reports in here. Take a look through here. If you're not sure, a lot of times I think it's the best thing is just to go look through them, see what it is, and sometimes there's a report that we can get to, and we can even help you combine reports. There's very few times where I've ever hit a situation where we didn't have a report for you, because really all these reports are requests that you had over the years, so we've added them in there. Again, print it if you like, or send it to Excel and make your own custom Excel report out of it. Forms, really there's not too much in forms, really. There's an account administration thing, which we go into over one of the webinars, but it is kind of handy if you are networking, which is kind of nice to know. If you are, especially union shows like to do this, we can network more than one computer together, okay? And those of you who know, who've used Showbiz Timecards, there's a standard password to get you in. We can change that for you now, and we can make it a more complex password. A lot of studios request this, so yes, we can do that for you now. Contact software support, and they can help you make your own. Essentially what we do is we make one person administrator, and then they can administrate the passwords for the rest of the team. But yes, then you're connecting to each other through the FileMaker Pro. Again, contact software support, and they'll help you to do that. But yes, you can connect together, and you can save it all to one computer's database and not have separate databases all spread out. That's the advantage using FileMaker Pro. You can work together and get payroll done, and also do daily entry for payroll, and also do hot costing. So again, watch those webinars, or if you want to wait, you can wait. We'll probably do one in a couple months, but nevertheless, I would suggest going and watching those webinars about how that daily entry and how the hot costing all works, because they're all broken up. Another thing that's really important too is understanding there's a difference between worksheet list and card list. I kind of went over that in previous webinars, but just make sure that if you say you needed department, right, and you wanted to find by department, go to card list, because card list has that. Worksheet list has different criteria. Think of this as what we did is instead of trying to make you scroll to the left and right like crazy, some people liked one as compared to another. You may even, for some reports, want to do it a particular way. But remember how I showed you that find you get earlier? Find what? Find the person, find the week ending, find whatever you're looking for, find the picture project. Whatever you're looking for, you can even stack them together. Big Kahuna and a particular week ending, right? I'll say I want to go in here and find that. Get that, and now you've got the particular time card or time cards. When you're done with that, either do a new find or just hit find all, and they're back. The same thing goes with card list. It's just there's different criteria to search from. Think of this, again, as like an index. It's like a book on a bookshelf. You can grab whatever you want out of this. And say, for example, you wanted one department. No problem. I want to see a report that's going to give me one department and say, we talked about grips. Again, you can type in here too. That's not a problem. Type in whatever you want. Grip, get, and then all the grips that you've had. Just be careful with some of these are blank, because we haven't filled the time card out. So use that functionality because it's handy. Another really cool one that you need to make sure to do, and it's very important, is backing up your data. That's in the scripts menu. Go to the scripts menu, and that's back up my time cards. That's right there. Remember, this program is local on your computer. So if something happens to that local computer, guess what happens to the data? It's stuck on that computer, right? So if you back up the data, and I would suggest you back it up. If you have a network drive, that's fine, no problem. Back it up to the network drive. But I would buy a flash drive. Go get it. It doesn't even need to be a huge one. Although nowadays, I think like 32 and 64 are the standard where you can buy it at any one of the big box stores. That's fine. It'll also give you a warning too. Always make sure to do that. So click OK, because it's going to do whatever. It's going to back up everything, not just the particular ones you want. And then go and save that. And I would save it to make sure if I'm saving it to my desktop, that's probably not the best place to do it, because then if this hard drive goes down, then I've lost the data, right? Back it up to an external source. And that's the key with any important data. Back it up to an external source because you don't want to lose the data. Like I said, the flash drive's the best. You pull the flash drive out, you put it in a fireproof safe, you're good to go. And then what happens is if something happens, the hard drive, heaven forbid somebody, steals a computer, or the office gets into a fire, and believe it or not, they've had all three of those over the years. Just go ahead and you get the new computer. We'll get you installed. Our software support people will help you move the license to another computer, no problem. And then we'll import the data from the last backup you made. So we will prompt you every Monday to do a backup, but I would manually do it every time you touch payroll, because then we have that much more payroll that we can bring in, and you lose literally nothing. I've seen people go do this multiple times a day. You don't have to go that much, but anytime you've done payroll, before you shut the program down, go do a quick backup. At the most, I've seen huge numbers of time cards. They might take, 30 to 40 seconds. Okay, you save 30 to 40 seconds instead of having to re-enter a bunch of time cards, which could be hours, if not days. So always make sure you do that backup, and it's right there. Okay, now, I talked about earlier about the help tutorials. It's right here on the top corner. It's going to take you to the website. You can go right to our website, and there it is. Clicking on that. There we go. It takes you right to where our webinars, our software support staff. So again, you can watch, if you want to watch a particular webinar, webinars and tutorials both. Yes, they're right in here. See, because we actually put a lot of the same stuff right on top here. But again, if you want to watch previous webinars, they're actually under the tools in the webinar recordings. So you can go back and, for those people who have missed today, or you want to just watch it again, there you go. It's right there, and you can go watch it again. All right. That's pretty much it. Let me see if there's any more questions for you. Okay, so can two people be logged in the same database? Yes, that's what FileMaker Pro is for. FileMaker Pro, the program itself is actually a FileMaker-based program. And it's a standalone, what we call a runtime. It's when you buy the standard license, it's available for your local computer. You can run on that computer. All right. So now if you wanted to, you buy another license for another computer and you purchase FileMaker Pro. Now, a lot of studios actually purchase the FileMaker Pro and the licenses for you. So that's fine. You can do that. But what that does, and again, contact software support, they have a little sheet they can give you that explains what you need to purchase. It is more expensive, but yes, you can have two people connected together. What happens is you have something called a host, and then everybody else is considered a workstation. And you can have as many people. I think FileMaker Pro has a limitation of 9, I believe, or is it 10? I'm including the host, but that's rare. There are ways around that if you are going with something called FileMaker Server. That means you need maybe I've had some post-production companies that need to do this. They have maybe 15 people, and they're all posting, and they all want to use it on a server. That's fine. Server is more expensive because you have to actually get a dedicated server. But it is a possibility, though, for those people that need it. For most of you, if you're on a show, one person is the host, you see the payroll person, and then you have an assistant, and then you have the lead accountant. So yes, you can do that. You just buy a FileMaker Pro for each computer, and you buy a license of crew cards. See, that's why it's more expensive. But if you need it, it is totally worth it, especially since you get daily entry of time cards, and you also get all the hot costing along with it. That's the beauty of doing the networking. You can work on it together, do daily entry, and you can also get hot costing out of it as well. So yes, you can do that. Contact the software support, and they'll help you with what you need. But yes, you just need to purchase licenses of FileMaker Pro and the Showbiz time cards or Showbiz SAG cards as well. So that's right. Again, it gets a little more expensive, but I've had so many people over the years say, "Oh, I wish I had done this years ago," because it was so much easier than having two different people, having two different, because you could, technically what you would do normally is say, okay, one person enters all of the off production people, maybe the Teamsters and DGA, and then the other person does all the rest of the crew. That can be a little, it can work, and I've seen it happen on big shows. It works fine. But if you really need somebody to help and work together and collaborate, and again, those hot costing and a daily entry that is built into that, you can actually do those very efficiently through the networking process. All right. Any other questions? And it's actually 11 o'clock. So, all right, perfect. Thank you very much for attending today's webinar. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to click on that website and go right to that website. And there's, people that you can talk to immediately. If you have any questions from me, or if you have any other interest in media services, feel free to call these numbers here and or contact us via email, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. All right, thank you and have a great day.